Welcome to TNT Sports Talk. Today is Thursday, November 1st. As always, represented by D's Home Cuts. I'm your host today, Travis Karcheski, and we have a lot of stuff to get into, so we're just going to roll with right ahead. I usually write an outline for the show, and I did today, but I write it on Wednesday, and then if something pops up between the time I write the outline and the time I do the show, I usually add it towards the end. But I wanted to move this topic right to the top of the show. Derrick Rose last night was probably one of, if not the most emotional nights I've had watching sports in a long time. I didn't watch the game. I didn't watch it live, but watching the highlights after really just struck deep in me. Watching Derrick Rose's interview. So if you don't know, Derrick Rose scored 50 points last night versus the Jazz. Derrick Rose has come a very long way since winning the MVP. He's gone through a lot of different challenges, and changes in terms of his game. He's gone from team to team, never really sticking with the team for a long time. After the Bulls released him, I think he signed on with the Knicks, and then he went to the Jazz for a little bit, and then he went to the he went to the Knicks, the Cavs, the Jazz, and now he's with the Timberwolves. So he hasn't been able to stick with anybody for a long time. After his knees just got torn up after his MVP season, kids today, I think, especially people who are in the prime teenage years, don't really understand. I didn't really understand it at all, because when Derrick Rose was winning those MVPs and putting up numbers, I was about 13, 14, 15 years old, so I knew how dominant of a player he was. Kids today don't understand that. And he was a really special player. I remember him coming out of Memphis and just tearing up the NBA as soon as he got in, winning Rookie of the Year, I believe. And when he started to have those knee problems, tearing his ACL, tearing his meniscus, there were a lot of jokes going around the internet. A lot of things. He was getting made fun of a lot. Now, I get it. It was just all in good fun, but this man has been through a lot. People don't understand the gravity of a situation when an athlete gets a pretty bad injury, multiple bad injuries. The thing they love, the career that they love, gets put on the line, and it takes a lot to get back. And to come back from 3-4 knee injuries is very tough to do. And we were just waiting for Derrick Rose to come back to MVP form. He's shown flashes over the years. I know he had a couple pretty nice runs there with the Knicks. He didn't really mesh well with the Cavs and LeBron. He's been vocal about that. Him and LeBron didn't really work out. And then, the Jazz, nothing really happened there. And then he was able to link on with the Timberwolves for a veteran minimum deal. But last night he got his first start, and something clicked. I don't know what it was. I don't know what happened, but he just started to play like old Derrick Rose, and he put up 50 points. Due to Jeff Teague being out, he got his first start, and it was just one of the most amazing moments in sports in the last couple years, so we had to move it to the top of the show. Derrick Rose scoring 50 points, absolutely breaking down there towards the end. He was crying on the sidelines. He was crying in the interview. It was just a very emotional night for Derrick Rose and NBA in a whole. Everybody was rooting for this guy. I know a lot of people like to make fun of Derrick Rose, but in the end, everybody loves Derrick Rose, and everybody wanted to see him do what he did last night, and we're so happy we did get to see it. And I think LeBron put it perfectly in his interview at the end. They asked him about it, and he said, even if you don't play basketball, this is an inspiring thing to see. And it was one of the most inspiring things I've seen in a long time. To just, he said, I just worked my ass off. I needed this moment, and he got it. So props out to Derrick Rose. Those are one of the moments right there as to why I do what I do, why I started this podcast with Truman, why we started it, because we love sports. And the reason why we love sports is, it could bring you down so low, when your team loses, when certain things happen. It could just make everything, worse. But when sports is good, it's the greatest thing on earth. Watching somebody triumph over something like that is one of the main reasons why I love watching sports. And it baffles me when I hear when I talk to people who say, oh, I don't really watch sports, I don't really watch stuff like that, and I get it, everybody has their own little thing, but how could you not just get enthralled by a moment like that? Watching those interviews last night and this morning, tears start to come to your eyes because you just realize the relief on Derrick Rose's face, the joy he felt, the teammates' joy around him. Everybody was happy for Derrick Rose, and that's why we watch sports right there. That's what it's all about. For moments like that, once in a lifetime moments, it's so amazing to watch. And, people don't understand why guys like us, why people like us, care about sports, are so passionate about sports. And all you got to do is show them those clips. There's few sports clips in the past couple of years, in pretty much all of my life, that really just take me in and just reduce me to tears almost. And last night was one of them. I mean, there's examples everywhere, the David Ortiz Boston speech, stuff like that, are just some of the reasons, or some of the clips, I guess, that you could just show people when they say, why do you like sports? Why are sports so important to you? Why do sports matter so much to people? And it's just stuff like that. It's just inspiring. And it was one of the most inspiring things I've seen in a long time. And it just shows, no matter what's happened, no matter what's going on in your life, you can, overcome it. You can triumph above it. Derrick Rose was at the bottom, rock bottom a couple years ago. He's faced rock bottom a couple times. He left the Cavs due to personal reasons, and he just didn't have it. But he was able to fight through it, and he didn't give up, and he was able to, overcome his weaknesses and his injuries, and just turn it all back, turn the clock back for one night, hopefully more than just one night, and just show everybody why he won the MVP in 2011, why he is known as one of the most well-respected veterans in the game today. So give it credit to Derrick Rose. The Timberwolves have been going through a lot all season, a lot of the offseason, but last night, I think we were all Timberwolves fans, we were all Derrick Rose fans, and it was just amazing. So I had to lead the show off with that. I know I wanted to go right into football. Football's the first thing I wanted to talk about, but when something like that happens, something as amazing, as inspiring, as motivational as that, you have to lead the show off with that if you have a sports podcast. So I'm so glad I started this so I can just talk about that and just voice my opinions on that. And that's why one of the reasons why we started this, for moments like that, to talk about moments like that. It's just amazing, and I give credit to Derrick Rose and his entire family, his entire support system. He worked his ass off, like he said. And he really showed us that you can do anything, no matter where you're at in your life, no matter what's going on, no matter how hard it gets, you can always bounce back with a little hard work and a little support. So give credit to Derrick Rose. We're going to move now to football. I said it on Tuesday's show. There's going to be moves that we miss because we did Tuesday's show right at the end of the trade deadline, and we missed 3 pretty big moves. There was 5 moves that were notable enough to talk about today. There was no trades I really didn't like. We talked about Demaryius Thomas and Golden Tate. Demaryius Thomas to the Texans, Golden Tate to the Eagles. Those were the 2 moves we got. But we missed 3 pretty big moves. 2 of those moves dealt with my team, the Packers, and we're going to talk about them. So first off, Dante Fowler to the Rams for a 3rd-round pick and a 5th-round pick was a bit of a shock to me. Everyone was kind of saying, damn, the Rams, they got 4 first-round picks now in their defensive line. The one thing you could say about the Rams is they didn't have an outside pass rush, and now I guess you could say they added it with Dante Fowler. Dante Fowler, everybody knows, he was a 3rd-round pick a couple years ago. He was hurt his rookie year. I think he tore his Achilles in training camp or his ACL, one of the 2. He was out the whole year. And then he's just kind of been a situational pass rusher. He's started, I believe, 1 game his entire career with the Jaguars. And he's had some kind of off-the-field issues. He was involved in that London brawl last Saturday. But he is a talented pass rusher in situational schemes. I believe Wade Phillips will be good for him. I believe a lot of these guys around him will be good for him. They've done a pretty good job. I got to give Sean McVay and Wade Phillips credit of kind of controlling these big personalities, and I think this is a great position for Fowler. In terms of how it affects the NFL, the Rams were already talented. You're just adding to more. There's just more talent being added. I don't think Dante Fowler is, an amazing addition. I don't think it's going to make them worlds better, but I think it's going to help because it's going to add a little bit of pressure on the outside that you really didn't have to deal with when facing the Rams. So next move, Ty Montgomery, Packers, was traded to the Ravens for a 7th-round pick we got in return. This is a good move for both sides. It was obvious. It became clear as a couple hours passed by that Montgomery wasn't going to be a Packer for long. I'm a Packer fan through and through, but what the fans did to him on Sunday was really unacceptable. You know, he had death threats called against him and his wife. Players were talking out against him in the locker room, calling him selfish, and you could tell he just didn't want to be there anymore, and you could tell the Packers weren't going to keep him around. So they were able to get a little bit of compensation for him, and they sent him to the Rams for a 7th-round pick. How this affects the Packers, we'll do how it affects the Ravens in a second here. The Packers now have 2 running backs instead of 3. They don't feel the pressure to get Montgomery on the field. I know people are saying, well, he's very versatile because he's a former wide receiver. He can catch passes out the backfield, and that's true. But when you get a guy like Aaron Jones and Jamal Williams, it's hard to take them off the field, especially Aaron Jones, who's now going to get a lot more carries. Jamal Williams is a little bit of kind of a receiving back, so he'll take a lot of those receiving yards that Montgomery has, and he'll make up for that. As far as it affects the Ravens, they just get a versatile guy. Alex Collins and Buck Allen are 2 very good backs, but they don't have the versatility that a Ty Montgomery brings. So a fresh start for Montgomery is going to be good for him, and it's going to be good for the Ravens too. Next move, Clinton Dix to the Redskins. I wanted to talk about this. The Packers got a 4th-round pick in return for next year's draft. When this first went down, I was pissed. I'm a big Clinton Dix fan. I have his jersey. And I really didn't understand it at first. But after I calmed down a little bit and I really looked at it, read some tweets from some Packers insiders, I understand the move a little bit more. Fans who aren't Packer fans are going to look at this move and say, oh, the Packers are just tearing it down. But I don't believe that's what they're doing. Obviously, safety is our weakest position, and trading away our best safety doesn't make sense. But it's kind of like the Demarius Randall deal. Trading away our best corner last year didn't make sense either. But Brian Gutekunst, the GM for the Packers, is kind of making a statement. Clinton Dix has been one of our most talented players for years now in the defense, and the Packers for a couple seasons now have been trying to get him to step up as a leader, and he hasn't been the leader that we need or the leader that we think he could be. He's been kind of a quiet guy. There's been some plays, there's been some games where he's showed us that he really doesn't like to show a lot of effort in not low stress situations, if that makes sense. Like last year, the last game of the season, we were out of it. Rodgers wasn't playing, and it was clear that really didn't care, and he showed a lot of plays where he just gave no effort at all. And it's just a sad thing to see. Clinton Dix is loved in Green Bay. He's loved off the field, but again, he hasn't stepped up in the way the Packers want him to. And, it was clear he wasn't going to come back next year. He kind of already voiced that. So Gutekunst said, okay, you don't want to be here? Then we're going to trade you. And it's the same thing with Demarius Randall. Randall really didn't want to be there. So if you don't want to be there, we're going to trade you. We're going to get rid of you. Now, I understand people are saying, well, you can't get rid of talent. Look what happened with Demarius Randall. The Browns moved him to safety, and now he's one of the best safeties. Yeah, that's true, but they both didn't want to be here. The relationship was kind of torn beyond repair. And like I saw a tweet where the Packers have been trying to get Clinton Dix to step up, and it's been like trying to fit a square peg into a round hole. It's just not going to work. We've been just trying to force it, and it just hasn't been working, and it will never work. So we decided to go ahead and get rid of him, get rid of a guy who doesn't want to be here, and get some compensation in return. As far as how do they make up for this loss? They got a lot of guys, young guys who can kind of step up now. I know Josh Jones has been waiting to get some snaps, and I think this will be his opportunity to really prove himself. Jamal Williams played safety for Mike Pettin in Cleveland, so I see that going on. Jermaine Whitehead's played well. So they have some options. So I don't think it's as dumb of a move as people think. In terms of Other moves, non-moves, I think 3 players should have been traded that didn't. I think Le'Veon Bell should have been traded. We'll talk about that more at the end here. A couple stats I wanted to show you. Landon Collins, I think he should have been moved. I guess their asking price was pretty high. I was hoping the Packers would go after him and keep him and Ha Clinton Dix in the same secondary would be dangerous. And I think Bruce Irvin should have been traded because I think the Raiders could have gotten a pretty solid pick out of somebody who also has shown he really doesn't want to be there anymore. I was glad Eli Manning didn't get traded, and I was glad Derek Carr didn't get traded. I think both of those guys want to stay there, and I'm glad they didn't get traded. But that's it for the trade deadline review. It was a crazy trade deadline. It was like baseball almost, and I was very happy to see that because the NFL trade deadline over the past couple of years has been slow, but I'm glad it happened. But we're going to get now Week 9. We're going to do some Week 9 predictions, and then we will wrap up the NFL news and move on to college. So Week 9 NFL. Got a couple games here I want to go over. We'll start with tonight's snoozer of a Thursday night game. It's going to be a rough couple of weeks here for primetime because we got a couple pretty bad primetime games. I know we got Giants, 49ers, I think, next Monday or something like that. So it's going to be pretty bad here. And let me tell you, this Thursday night game is a real barn burner here. We got the Oakland Raiders at the 49ers. C.J. Beathard versus Derek Carr and John Gruden. Both teams struggling right now to get a win. As you know, the 49ers lost last week to the powerhouse Arizona Cardinals, and the Oakland Raiders lost last week to the powerhouse Indianapolis Colts. But we're struggling here. This game's going to be struggling to find some viewership here, but we'll try to pump it up a little bit. So both teams, like I said, are desperate for wins. Both teams really, really, really want to get a couple more wins under their belt before the season ends. I get it, they're kind of tanking, but they're also not. It's kind of, it's different because the NBA, they openly tank, but in the NFL, it's not respected if you openly tank. So both teams are going to be going for wins here, and it's just going to be a rough game. But I think the 49ers will pull it out. I think Beathard's a decent quarterback, and he'll be able to pull this one out. And if the Raiders, whoever loses this game, they're going to be looking pretty bad here for a pretty long time in the rest of the season, because if you lose to either of these teams, that's just embarrassing, especially on primetime, even though Thursday, this isn't going to be a well-watched game. I'm just going to say that. Next game, we're going to go to Sunday where there's actual good games going on right now. Pittsburgh at Baltimore. I'm taking Pittsburgh here. They've been hot the last couple of weeks. James Conner has been an absolute stud, replacing Le'Veon Bell, who we will talk about in the segments portion of the show. Pittsburgh has put it together as of late. Their defense is still a little shaky, but I don't think Joe Flacco and the Ravens offense is going to really dissect that as much as they should. Baltimore's defense is good, but I think Pittsburgh's offense is better, so I'm picking Pittsburgh here. Chicago at Buffalo. We got Derek Anderson. No, we don't have. No, whoa. How could I forget the legend? Nathan Peterman is starting again for the Buffalo Bills. Derek Anderson is hurt, so they signed Matt Barkley. So they are going into this game with Nathan Peterman as QB1, as they should, and Matt Barkley as QB2. It's going to be a rough game in terms of the Buffalo Bills. Nathan Peterman, he's starting, like I said, on Sunday. His stats this year: 108 yards, 1 touchdown, 4 interceptions, a 20% passer rating, which is complete crap. But he's the guy. He is so fun to watch. It's not even funny because he is just so bad. And you got to give the guy a little credit. I understand he is really bad. He's one of the worst quarterbacks of all time so far. But they keep trotting him out there for some reason, and he keeps going out there, and every single week he goes out there, he has this confidence about him. You got to be confident in yourself to play quarterback in the NFL, and then it just completely falls apart. But the man stays confident, which I don't know how he does it, but you have to give him credit. He knows he's going to go out there. Everybody knows he's going to go out there and he's going to throw a couple picks, but he goes out there every single week. He has the confidence, and the Bills just keep, for some God knows what reason, they keep trotting him out there, just waiting for him to break through. And God knows if he'll ever do it, but you got to give a little bit of credit to him, because he keeps going out there week after week. You think, if I was in his shoes, you'd think after the third or fourth time where he goes in and throws multiple picks that he's just like, you know what? maybe this position isn't for me. Maybe it's time for me to move on and go sell insurance or do something else in my life, because I don't think being an NFL quarterback is right for me. But you got to give the guy credit. He goes out there every week and does his job pretty poorly, but he goes out there with confidence. So, I mean, there's something to be said for that. But I'm picking the Bears here. I think the Bears are the better team. Tampa Bay versus Carolina at Carolina. This is a must-win for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers if they want to save their season in some fashion. Fitzmagic will be starting, so this is what makes the game tough, because you're either going to get fantastic Fitzpatrick or pretty bad Fitzpatrick, and I don't really know what to think of this. So if Fitzpatrick's good, I'd take the Buccaneers, but I don't know what kind of Fitzpatrick we're going to get, so I'm taking the Panthers, who have been good as of late. Next game, Kansas City at Cleveland. I know Cleveland fans would pay for an upset here, but with a new head coach, this is another one of those games where you don't know what you're going to get, what kind of Cleveland team you're going to get with a new head coach and a new OC. I'm taking Kansas City here. They've started hot the last couple of years, and they usually start to fall around this time. But they've shown no signs of weakness, and I'm not going to pick against them right now. I'm taking the Kansas City Chiefs on the road at Cleveland. But Browns fans, I don't know what you're going to get. I don't know what's going to happen here. This game is pretty hard to pick because you don't know what you're going to get. Next game, Jets and Miami. I think Brock Osweiler's starting again. Tannehill, I don't know what's going on with him right now, his shoulder injury. And Miami's looked rough as of late. The Jets have looked rough too, but I'm taking Sam Darnold and the Jets in that situation. Even though Miami's played well as of late in certain games, I'm taking the Jets here. Detroit at Minnesota. I know a lot of people saw the Golden Tate move and said, it looks like Detroit's tearing it down. But I don't think they are. They traded for Snacks Harrison. I think they want Galladay to step up. I think they believe Galladay could be a number one wide receiver. But still, I'm taking Minnesota here. Minnesota's been good as of late. They lost to the Saints. They lost to a really good Saints team. But I'm taking the Minnesota Vikings at home. Atlanta at Washington. I'm taking the Redskins here. They got that new secondary now with HaHa Clinton-Dix. The Falcons are a talented team, but they are just beat up in terms of defense. Julio's not been the same in a while. And I just don't think they have enough to beat the Redskins, who now have a pretty formidable defense, and their offense with Adrian Peterson, who has a lot more left in the tank. I'm taking the Redskins here on the road. At home. Houston at Denver. Two division rival. They're not in the same division. What am I talking about? Two teams who Houston has been hot as of late, and two polar opposite teams. Houston has been hot as of late, and Denver has been pretty rough as of late. Denver was a candidate to kind of break it down a little bit, and they did, trading away Demaryius Thomas, who will now go back to Denver to play revenge game, which is pretty crazy that he goes from Denver, and now he's going to be playing at Denver his first week with the Houston Texans. So this new look Houston Texans offense is going to be interesting to see how they play. I'm taking the Texans here because they have just been so hot as of late, and they are now a Super Bowl contender, which is something you wouldn't have said early on in the season. But I'm taking the Houston Texans here on the road because Denver's looked rough as of late. I know the Chubb-Von Miller combo has been looking good lately. Chubb just won Rookie of the Month, but I'm still taking the Houston Texans here. I think they're the better team. Next game, the Chargers at the Seattle Seahawks. I'm taking the Chargers on the road. Seattle has looked good as of late. They've played some pretty poor teams, though, so I don't put much credence into that. The Chargers are pretty talented still, and that doesn't change just because of a couple good weeks here versus bad teams. Chargers have looked good. They're coming off a bye week, and I could see the Chargers absolutely throttling the Seattle Seahawks. Next game, the Rams at the Saints. This is a big game. This is the second, probably this is going to go back and forth between this and the Sunday nighter with Green Bay and the Patriots as the best game of the week. I'm taking the Saints here at home. Think about it. The Saints are really talented. They're at home. They're one of, if not the hottest teams next to the Rams. Two forces just colliding. I don't really know what the Rams are going to look like now that they have Dante Fowler. The Saints, Marcus Davenport is out. But I think the Saints could come in here and just punch the Rams in the nose. and get a win. The Rams are a talented team. Even if they lose this game, it's not going to change my opinion on them. I don't see them going undefeated. It's really impossible to go undefeated. So I'm taking the Saints here at home, which is a little crazy, a little out there. But I think the Saints are talented, and I think the Rams, are good, but they haven't been as good as of late. They almost lost to the Packers. They've had a couple close games here as of late, and I think I'm going to take the Saints here. Green Bay at New England. So when picking this game, it was tough because I never pick against the Packers. And after the Patriots beat the Chiefs, I said I'd never pick against. After the Patriots beat the Dolphins, I said I'd never pick against the Patriots ever again. But I'm breaking that rule this week, and I'm picking the Packers. I got to go with my home team. You're going to see a new look Packers, I think, in terms of defense. Their defense played really well last week, and they would have won that game. They would have beaten the Rams if not for Ty Montgomery's fumble, because I believe Aaron Rodgers would have went down and won them that game. So I'm taking the Packers here on the road. This is the first time in a long time we really got to see Aaron Rodgers versus Tom Brady. A couple years ago when they played, Rodgers was hurt and Matt Flynn played, and he played well. So we haven't gotten to see Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady in a long time here. So I'm taking the Packers here. I think Rodgers will be juiced up for this game. And if you want to put the must-win thing on the Packers, this is the game you put it, because they got to win this game. If they want to put themselves back into contention, they got to win this game. They got to show out for the fans here. I'm taking the Packers on the road at the Patriots. The Monday night game, Tennessee versus Dallas. I'm taking the Dallas Cowboys here. Two teams who are right on the cusp of being good. Tennessee, I don't know what to think of them yet. They kind of play to the level of their competition, so I could see them upsetting Dallas here, but I think Dallas on the prime time. Jason Witten will be calling their game. It's just a primetime Dallas game. I think they give the ball to Ezekiel Elliott a lot. They'll get Amari Cooper for first time, and I think he'll help out a lot in their offense. Not as much as people think or Dallas hopes, but I think he'll help out a little bit. So I'm taking Dallas here on the road. So that's Week 9. That's Week 9 predictions. We'll see how that goes. One more NFL story. Brandon Marshall got released by the Seahawks. He's a 6-time Pro Bowler, 34 years old. He signed on late with the Seahawks after getting released by the Giants. And he's only had 136 yards this year and 1 touchdown. You got to start to think, is this the end of the line for somebody who was so dominant for such a long time? You got to think that. I don't see him signing on anywhere else. Maybe like the Browns late. I don't know. You got to think somebody would rather sign Dez Bryant before Brandon Marshall. But you never know. But it looks like this is the end of the line maybe for Brandon Marshall. But we will keep up on his journey as the season goes. So we're going to go to college real quick. We're going to roll through this because I wanted to get to some basketball and baseball talk. And we are almost halfway through the show. So college, a couple games this week. Nebraska and Ohio State. Ohio State's looking to get back on the winning grind here soon. This game's at noon, so this is a good chance for Ohio State to get a win and get back on track. West Virginia's playing Texas, 13 versus 17. This is a good chance for Texas to get back on track. They're not a playoff team, but this is a good opportunity for them to really put their season back on the tracks after a loss versus Oklahoma State. And this is a good chance for West Virginia to get back into the playoff contention. Next game, 14, Penn State is playing number 5, Michigan. Good chance for Penn State to put themselves back in the playoff contention, and a good chance for Michigan to get a good win here at home. But obviously, we talked about it in the last show, Alabama versus LSU. This is the biggest game of the year so far. 1 versus 3. Joe Burrow, my guy. LSU is my SEC team. He's saying this is one of the biggest games in the last couple of years, but he's not scared. His quote is, "I'm not scared. If anybody is scared, then they should just not come out of the locker room." Bama's 14-point favorites. 14-point favorites. Don't come out of the locker room if you're scared. That's Joe Burrow's saying this game. You know Ed Orgeron's going to have them up. He's going to have them pumped up and ready to go. And this is a huge game for playoff implications because the playoff rankings came out. We'll quickly run through the top 10. Alabama's number 1. Clemson's 2. LSU's 3. Notre Dame's 4. Number 5 is Michigan, 6 Georgia, 7 Oklahoma, 8 Washington State, 9 Kentucky, and 10 Ohio State. So all these teams got a shot to get back up into the playoff rankings. This top 4 will not be this top 4 for long. It's going to change, and I think we'll see some changes here after this game. I think Alabama is a good team, but I think they're going to be shocked by how pumped up LSU comes out of the gate. Ed Orgeron is one of the best motivators out of any coach anywhere, and he's going to have his guys ready to go. And I could see LSU just coming out and pummeling Alabama. Joe Burrow, he's the best quarterback LSU's had in a long time. They got some good linebackers, some good corners. I see LSU pulling the upset here. LSU's corners have to be able to guard Alabama's wide receivers one-on-one if they really want to win, because they got to bring pressure at Tua. He struggles when he's under pressure, so they got to be able to guard their wide receivers on an island. And if they do that, I see LSU coming out of the gate just absolutely dominating. This is going to be the most exciting game of the year, and it's going to be like a playoff game. So tune into that. That's on Saturday. That's prime time. We're going to go now to basketball. I know we talked a little bit of basketball in the beginning, but there is some stories I wanted to talk about. But before that, I got to remind you guys about my guy, Dom at D's Home Cuts. We say it every show, D's Home Cuts is the best place around Northeast Ohio for a great haircut at a low price. $7, that's all you got to pay to get a great haircut and modern styling. Truman and I and about 90% of our guests on this show have gotten their haircut at Dom's at least once, or he is their main haircut stylist. So let me tell you guys, go into Dom, get a fresh cut. It gets better every single time because Dom is always upgrading his equipment so he can give you the best haircut and the best haircutting experience possible. You can find D's Home Cuts on Twitter at D's Home Cuts. Check him out. It's the best place to go, like I said. Instagram is probably better than Twitter, though, even though I said Twitter. Check him out on Instagram at D's Home Cuts. You can set up an appointment directly in the bio, send him a DM, whatever. You got questions, comments, concerns. He'll take care of all of it. D's Home Cuts, professional haircuts at a low price. So basketball. After that incredible performance by Derrick Rose last night, Klay Thompson's performance on Monday got a little overshadowed. On Tuesday, sorry. Klay Thompson scored 52 points in a 149-124 win over the Chicago Bulls. In that game, Klay Thompson scored 14 three-pointers, breaking the record set by his teammate Steph Curry. The Warriors in themselves scored 92 points in the first half. Absolutely insane. They could have easily scored 160, 170 if they would have played their starters the whole game, but why would you? I saw a tweet that I thought was pretty funny. It was like, do the Warriors just sit in the locker room before the game and then draw straws to see who scores 50 that night? Because it's so true. They got guys like Thompson, Curry, Kevin Durant. Draymond Green couldn't do it, but you know what I mean. Iguodala, they got like 4 guys at least who could score 50 any night that they wanted to. Maybe not Iguodala, but Curry, Thompson, and Durant could each score 50 every single night if they wanted to, and it just shows the kind of firepower this team has. And Klay Thompson's kind of the most underrated player on this team because he is, if he would go somewhere else, he could easily be the superstar there. But he decides to stay and keep playing for them. And he just every now and then you forget about him, but then he reminds you as to why he is one of the best players in the league by going out and scoring 52 points and hitting 14 three-pointers. So you go from that team in the league, the best team, to the worst team in the league, the Cleveland Cavaliers. They're 1-6 now. Kevin Love's still dealing with foot issues. This team is being just absolutely destroyed from the inside to the outside. Larry Drew right now is interim. He's not so sure he wants to be the interim head coach. He's doing it for right now, but he wants additional money because he is going to be coaching pretty much the entire season. But he's getting paid like a assistant coach. So he wants some additional money. The Cavs don't really want to pay it. J.R. Smith is pretty pissed he's not getting playing time. So there are reports he wants to be traded. They're trying to trade Kyle Korver. So this team is just a mess from the inside to the outside. And I feel bad for them. Tristan Thompson before the season talking about how they're still the Eastern Conference champions and they still need to be respected. No, bro, you suck. This team sucks. Sexton is not going to fix it. Kevin Love being out hurts them a lot. I think it'll help them when they gets back, and I think they'll end up being pretty decent. And they won't be the worst team in the league. They'll be there, but they'll be a little bit better than the worst team. But they need to fix this whole Larry Drew thing. I don't think firing Ty Lue was a great choice. Because I don't think Larry Drew is going to do much better than Ty Lue, and I think players like Ty Lue, they like playing for him. So it's kind of dumb for them to go ahead and cut him, but who knows? Maybe it does ignite some sort of fire, but it hasn't so far, and it's kind of a sad thing to watch as it goes forward here. So baseball, that's it for basketball. So baseball, we want to talk a little bit about that. It's going to be slowing down here for baseball talk because we're in the off season now. The Red Sox had their parade the other day, yesterday. Just another day in Boston, right? Another championship parade. Sad to see. So the World Series ratings were in, and it was the fourth lowest rated World Series in terms of viewerships in this entire history of the MLB. The fourth lowest rated World Series ever. I think, this just shows us, I've been saying it for a long time. We had a lot of guests on here that have been saying the entire thing. Baseball is just so bad at marketing. The World Series is so exciting, and we just don't care. Nobody cares. Younger people don't care. It takes a lot to draw people to baseball, and the MLB really just doesn't care. And it's sad to see because this is just such an exciting game, and we had some very exciting moments in the World Series that just went under the radar just because nobody really cares about the World Series, especially the younger guys. The only people that are really watching the World Series are diehard baseball fans because nobody really cares about a Boston Los Angeles Dodgers World Series except Boston and Dodger fans. So, it just shows, baseball's fallen. The fourth lowest rated watched World Series in the history of the MLB. That's tough to see, especially now because it's so easy to watch these type of games. You can watch it anywhere, and you just can't. And you go out there and you throw a stinker like that up. That's not a good look for baseball, and they need to do something to change it. Like I said, baseball is one of the worst. The MLB is one of the worst marketed sports in the world, honestly. From everything from not allowing people to share clips on social media sites. I think that's why the NBA is growing so popular because every day you go onto Twitter and you'll see exciting dunks, exciting shots. But baseball, you're not allowed to do that. You have to have permission to do it, which sucks. And it's just, from that to, not marketing their players well. Mike Trout is one of the best all-time, if not the best all-time greatest baseball players, and you barely hear from him. And it's just sad to see. Last little bit of baseball news, JT Realmuto, the catcher for the Marlins, wants to be traded. Probably their best player. He is a very rare piece in baseball because he is a catcher that can hit over 300, which is very rare to find nowadays. So they'll get a good haul from him. I'd love to see, like the Indians go after him, but they won't because the Indians like Yan Gomes and Roberto Perez. Where he goes, I don't know. This is just kind of a blip on the radar right now. Hopefully it grows into more of a story later. But I could see him getting traded. And I was kind of surprised they didn't trade him. Because, like I said, a catcher that can hit and play defense is very rare. And JT Realmuto has been one of the best catchers for a long time in the league, and he's just been undervalued because he plays for the Marlins. But that's it for baseball. We're going to go to some segments now. I got a couple segments here. We're going to kind of go through it a little bit. And then we'll wrap up the show here. But again, we're going to move to segments. But before that, I had to remind you guys that our show is brought to you by A's Lawn Service. So, A's Lawn Service since 2014 has been providing professional landscaping to many homes around Northeast Ohio. By using professional equipment, A's constantly strives to provide families with professional landscaping at a low and fair price. Turn to A's and trust me, your lawn and your home will never look better. Trust A's for all your landscaping needs and you will not be disappointed. The phone number is 330-241-2392, 330-241-2392, and the email is lawnservice.a's@gmail.com. Well, a couple days ago started the streak of 27 days straight where there will be live football on every single night. Don't waste your time. Don't miss some of those games by cutting your lawn or doing your leaves. Turn to A's, and trust me, your lawn and your home will never look better. A's Lawn Service LLC. You grow it, we cut it. So, we got some segments here. Got a couple things I wanted to talk about, but let me see here. We'll start with Le'Veon Bell. Le'Veon's been kind of the story of the season so far for the Steelers because, he hasn't been reporting. I know Steelers fans have been pissed, but I think so far this season it's gone a lot better than they thought. James Conner has done more than enough to fill his shoes, even you could say even better than Le'Veon Bell has been. And there was a stat that came up. They play the Ravens this week. The Ravens defensive coordinator, his name is slipping me right now, said that it doesn't really matter that Le'Veon Bell is not there because James Conner is doing a lot better than what Le'Veon Bell is, and the Steelers are actually better without Le'Veon Bell. And that's the reason why Le'Veon Bell's not showing up, because the Steelers are better. The Steelers don't need him, he said. And then a stat popped up, started going around, that showed us that the Steelers are averaging about 6 points more a game without Le'Veon Bell. They're averaging about 40 more yards without him. Their red zone percentage goes up about 18 points without him. And their winning percentage stays about the same, but you know what I'm saying. The Steelers are playing better without Le'Veon Bell. The offense is running, it looks like, a little bit smoother than what it was beforehand, which is crazy to me. But James Conner is doing a good enough job to fill Le'Veon's shoes, and if I'm Le'Veon, this season has been a bad year for me because it showed that I am replaceable. It's going to drive down his value a lot. It showed him that he is replaceable. God knows what's going to happen because he's going to have to come back week 10 or else this year doesn't count. And when he comes back week 10, which is next week, what are the Steelers going to do with him? Because the team now, the locker room, if I'm the locker room, we're all rooting for James Conner. We want James Conner to be our guy. We don't want Le'Veon coming back. But if Le'Veon comes back, you're going to have to play somebody like that. So it's going to be interesting to see. Hopefully that won't screw up the Steelers' mojo, which is why I think they should have traded him in the first place. But they didn't, so now they're going to have to deal with it. So our last segment of the day, I wanted to talk a little bit about some stats. I love stats, especially baseball stats. And we're going to do a new segment called the Odd Sports Stat of the Day. So, the immaculate inning, the perfect inning, I guess you could call it, is what people are calling it, which is 9 pitches, 9 strikes, 3 strikeouts. Has only been done 46 times in the entire MLB history since stats really started to be recorded. And it goes back a pretty long time. So only 46 times in about 100 years the immaculate inning has happened, the perfect inning. But it's interesting because last year it's happened 46 times, right? Let me get my calculator out so I can do the math here. 46 times this has actually happened. But this year we had 4 of them. So about 10% of all the perfect innings in baseball history, which is about 100 years, 10% of those perfect innings came from this year. It happened 4 times this year. Scherzer did it versus the Twins. Kevin Gossman did it versus the Indians. German Marquez did it versus the Pirates. And Zach Rosscup did it versus the Mariners, which is interesting. 10% of all perfect innings came from this year, which is crazy to me because I think baseball wants to do more of a offensive game to make it a little bit more exciting. But again, this year 4 times. It's never happened 4 times in a season, and it happened last year. So maybe we'll see that number go up. But perfect innings are really exciting to watch. 9 pitches, 9 strikes, 3 strikeouts. It's cool to see. 46 times. It happened 4 times last year. The perfect inning. The odd sports stat of the day. So that's it for our show today. We want to thank you for listening. I know it was a little emotional in the beginning because Derrick Rose, that was just an amazing performance. But again, we want to thank you to our sponsors, D's Home Cuts and A's Lawn Service. We ask that you go into iTunes, give us 5 stars, rate, review us, and subscribe. Follow us on Twitter at TNT Sports Talk 12. That's where you can send us DMs, questions, comments, concerns. If you want to be a guest, hit us up in the DMs and send us a message, and we'll get you on here. We'll schedule a day for you to come in and give your take. We ask that you go into iTunes. Like I said, follow us, give us 5 stars, rate, review us, leave us a good review, and subscribe so you don't miss another episode. Listen to us tomorrow on 12 Ounce Sports, a great up-and-coming sports website that we partnered with a couple of months ago, and we've just been really excited to work with them. And like I said, it's up and coming, and we're really excited to be with part of them. Follow us on. You can find us on YouTube too. If you can't listen to us anywhere else, listen to us on YouTube. It's a great option for all our non-iPhone, all our non-Apple users out there. Other than that, have a great day. Tune in on Tuesday. I'm going camping this weekend in Hocking Hills, so I'll be a little bit away from the Twitter, but we will be following, and I'll be back Sunday for all the NFL games, so I can watch Packers absolutely shove it down Tom Brady's throat and put us right back into Super Bowl contention. But other than that, have a great day. We thank you for listening. We got some big things up and coming in the future here. It's going to be coming out a little bit more soon. We got Thanksgiving and winter break upcoming, so Truman should be on a lot more, and there will be a little less of these singular host episodes for me. Other than that, have a great day. It's November. Halloween's over. Stay strong, brothers. November 1st. And other than that, have a great day, and tune in on Tuesday.